Beautiful riding day. Short sleeves and shorts, but it's chilly. It's only 9 something a.m. I probably should have had a windbreaker, but it's going to be hot in a little while. I'm reading Vulture Capitalism by Grace Berkeley, which is like in the vein of Naomi Klein's Disaster Capitalism, but different. She's a lady who was a commentator on TV, and she's educated in economics, politics. She was contributing to Novara Media for a while, an independent group out of the UK. Anyway, it's a, it's not a really technical academic book. It's just a overview. It's always a difficult conversation when you talk about capitalism. Umer Heck wrote some piece where he's talking about everything's capital, commodified, but he likes capitalism. That's because he's an economist. So he drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago. So we have to apologize for it, even though we don't know what it is. So any kind of version of it from, mid-19th century Marxists, Karl Marx and Engels, to turn of the century Trotsky and Lenin and whoever, Mao Zedong later on. We're talking about communism versus capitalism. People don't know what capitalism is. You have to read Hayek, Milton Friedman, all these kinds of ideologues, and burrow into their thinking to understand what they're on about. Keynesianism, that kind of thing. And then, it's hard. I mean, you have to have some definition of capitalism under certain circumstances with code, legal code, the capital code, and political ideology like the fantasy of free markets versus planned economies, or capitalism with socialist characteristics, Deng Xiaoping, and now, of course, the kind of capitalism we see under Xi Jinping. Whether or not labor has anything to do with it, the means of production. But anyway, and then you're distinguishing between whatever mode of capitalism you're talking about, like industrialism in 19th century England, or Fordism, Henry Ford in Brazil, Henry Ford against labor, and then post-industrialization, which is financialized capitalism, where Boeing isn't making jets and engines anymore, really. It works with a bunch of partners and acquisitions to manufacture something, but basically its profits come from financial engineering, loans, financialization, globe cap, So things shift over time depending on the tools that capitalists come up with their service providers, the suits, the lawyers, the accountants, financial engineers, the technocrats, and you come up with a new kind of way to control resources, materials, energy supplies, labor forces. Of course, if you could roboticize everything and cut people out of the picture completely and say, well, you can be a prostitute or an entertainer or an athlete or a masseur or some other service that humans are good at, but we don't need you for anything else because we have AIs, robots. A good capitalist would be very happy with that. More profits, more resources, more control for me. And then, of course, you could just give the leftover people some UBI, universal basic income, to tide them over, placate them. And anyway, 8 billion people, they think 10 billion. People worry about demographics, great replacement theories, shit like that. But because, the name of the game is just to produce what needs to be produced in order to create capital. So at some point, the means of production, if it's all robotic and AI driven, you have less of a problem with labor. You don't have to union bust that much. You don't have to worry about the plebs, the proles, or the natives, the indigenous folk, because you don't really need them. We had slave labor, enslaved people's labor to be politically correct. And then we had the energy, the horsepower, the labor of oil and gas in machines, fossil fuels, coal, whatnot, fossil capital. And then, woohoo, where am I gonna go? And then eventually, you get to a point where America's not really manufacturing that much. It's just extracting resources from the rest of the world and having labor forces in Vietnam or China or wherever do the work. I don't think I want to go this way. No, I don't. I'm gonna turn around. So, labor arbitrage, various forms of arbitrage. Yeah, anyway, it's a big sweep of history. It goes back hundreds of years. Colonialism is a thing, it's part of it. So now what do we have? We have a globalized, financialized capitalism. And we have a new form of neocolonialism, whether you like that term or not. Sanctions, proxy wars. So I've been reading a lot of Indica. Recently, enjoying that. Oh man, how do I get to that one area I want to go to? who talks metaphorically about the white empire, so the global north versus the global south type of thing, for illustrative purposes. It's not a racialized thing, although obviously it is racialized by various factions of all sides, one way or another, in the sense that people concern themselves with the color of people's skin and so on, and language and culture. And they tend to other outgroups and treat them differently. And so whether money is just a construct, race is just a construct, it's a thing that we fall back on and have, some of us have faith in. I don't like racism. I don't like, that's not me. But it's there. Anyway, global north, global south, white empire. You can go back to all these East India companies, the age of discovery, colonialization from Portugal, France, England, English, the British Empire, all this kind of stuff. Well, I totally screwed the pooch on going where I wanted to go, so I'll just go somewhere else. How did that happen? So anyway, it's a thing, and we tell stories like Yuval Noah Harari. It's all a story. We tell stories, tell ourselves, we make up stories, narratives about how we're good for everybody, and the U.S. has its free market, rules-based order. And of course, for many people, it's all good because we like our trucks, we like our smartphones, we like our toys, we like our sports, our bread and circuses. We love all that. And we chalk it up to the genius of capitalism and free markets, even though that's a misguided thought and erroneous when you unpack it and examine it and interrogate it. Also, there's a sense of binary or exclusion of the middle type fallacies where you're thinking, well, there's only two things, right? There's the commies and the capitalists. The capitalists are better, which belies a lack of imagination and creativity in perhaps inventing new social, economic, and political systems that are better than both of those. But that's what we've got, That's where we're at. So, we pay attention to what we can pay attention to. And some of us are more provincial than others. Some of us are more worldly than others. So we're exposed to what we're exposed to, or what we, if we have greater agency, explore or try to expose ourselves to. And that may be various definitions of capitalism, and try and understand how it works today in this particular configuration, and whether or not it can deliver what it's supposed to deliver. And so I think for most people, many people in the West, in the white empire, or the global north, however you want to characterize that divide between the developing nations, nations under development. You know, you don't want to be insulting. You don't want to commit verbal violence against anybody. You have to mind your language. Can't keep up with it. But anyway, developing countries, poorer nations, relatively speaking, purchasing power parity or GDP or however you want to measure it. Maybe it doesn't work for them quite as well because we do all the emitting in the north of CO2, which is damaging the energy balance in the global climate system. We extract resources from these countries and we transfer them north to the wealthier countries, and then we live large. And we take it all for granted. It's like manifest destiny. It's just supposed to be that way because we're just better, smarter, and we provide incredible value to the world. I mean, if we didn't rob the planet and other countries 24/7, you know, would Nigerians have internet? You know, oh my God, you know, would the amount of money that Morocco makes from tourism be as high without the jet airplanes and, you know, the Airbus, the Boeing 747 and whatever, the oil, the trade, and you don't have your online shopping and all these wonderful things. You can do your striptease on some internet platform and make a little money from rich northerners. But it is a fact that, you know, countries with more power and more chutzpah and less moral qualms will just go and take it. You know, they corrupt, they bribe people and governments, and they take what they want. And thus America has, you know, 800 military installations, God knows how many CIA offices and operations. Well, in every embassy and consulate for sure, but more than that, you know, black sites all over the world to maintain control so that it can rob the world and then, you know, create Google or Facebook, which is just so good for the world. I mean, you know, you can live without it. If there's a big accident in space and the satellites turn into space junk, we're all going to be crying. We won't know what to do with ourselves. They probably won't have enough ADHD or psych meds available to medicate us when the internet goes down. Anyway, that's a thing. It really is, you know, one way or another, whether you're a trad or a conservative or you like talking about Evola's work, whatever, fascism. You know, if we were all just Catholics, everything would be great. You know, we could be real men because there'd be a definition of what it means to be a real man, and if you conform to that definition, then by definition you're a real man, and everything is beautiful in the world. Everything is just fine. Look at these nice horses. There are 3 horses grazing. 3 horses grazing. So nice. Yeah, they look really pretty. Yeah, they're good ones. Hey kids, how are you? There's one over there with his owner. They're very beautiful. Around here there's a lot of equestrian facilities. So I guess, bom dia. So I guess that sometimes they just walk the horses down to the patch of green. These are very well kept, well groomed horses. Anyway, so by definition, you're a real man or a real woman. You know your role to play in the hierarchy. Everything's as it should be. But then you get to fight over that too, because at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of kings fighting among themselves for power and control. Go back to serfdom, you go back to feudalism, go back to whatever, Holy Roman Empire, ancient Greece, Greek democracy, Athens. Good luck with that. That's, as I always say, at some point circumstances may force us to retreat. Because I was reading a report by this guy, who was that? Somebody put on my radar this report from the Sovereign Trust, the Energy Department in Norway, and they were discussing the oil reserves and potential new oil discoveries and so on. So how many billions of barrels of oil do we have left? So conventional wisdom is about 1,700 billion barrels of oil. You could add a little bit more to that if we make new discoveries in the Arctic, for example. And then they did a whole breakdown of it. And also you have to look at the economics. So tar sands, very expensive to get the energy out. You have to put so much energy into it, it's hardly feasible. So you have to look at the economics of oil. You know, if you're going to deep sea drilling, you know, it's very expensive. Anyway, all the low-hanging fruit's gone. So that's the peak oil discussion. And so their estimate was, in Norway, this group of people studying what we have left, I wonder what's that way. Have I done that before? So their thing was like something like 287 billion barrels of oil. So if you do the math based on our consumption of oil globally, you have anywhere from 7.5 years of oil, you know, reasonably priced oil left, to 12 years or something like that. I'm not an expert in this, but that's a huge discrepancy, right? 1,700 billion barrels of oil that the whole global capitalist system depends on. It's lifeblood. Versus 280. Oh my God. So that's a big difference, right? That's a huge difference, like 1/6. So if you can imagine, like, the cheap oil and gas days, you know, are gone in 7 years. Let's just pretend that somehow is an accurate estimation and it comes to pass. What the hell's going to happen to the global economy and capitalism, which requires on a lot of expensive extraction? So you'd have to have billions of little tiny dump trucks because you couldn't make the big ones anymore. If you tried to electrify, I mean, good luck with that. We should have started electrifying back in the 70s, right, when they killed the electric car, but we didn't. So we're way behind the 8 ball now. Hi, sheep. You're just sheep. We're way behind the 8 ball. And how are we going to do that? So then you have your coordination problem, your multipolar traps, and this and that and whatnot. Thucydides traps, and you're thinking, well, the AI thing, like one hand-waving freakoutery, his thing is like, if you're smart, you want to have the AI first, and you want to have a lot of guns and some security, and you want to have your bunker and your fort and stuff, because you'll die later than somebody who doesn't have that. So the idea is like, if you die, if you're the last guy standing, you win. But, no thought of like, could we do things differently and not have to face that kind of a scenario where I have to kill tens of thousands of people just to live another day? Which is kind of what we do. Holy cow. These A-frames are going up. A little bit of your holiday houses. So, so what are you going to do? And then you have the materials problem. So extracting all of the ore, rare earths, all the little things we need to manufacture stuff. You have to think about manufacturing itself and how the business numbers hold up for that at a certain scale under a different energy regime. And of course, Nate Higgins talks about this stuff all the time. But I'm just looking at it through the lens of some of these other articles and books and stuff that I'm reading. And I guess the bottom line being that the vast majority of people have no clue about any of this stuff. And it's like destiny, this commentator in the state, he was saying, it's not that the people are stupid. They know the arguments, they know what's going on. It's just that in order to feel good about themselves, they have to fit into a certain worldview. And if they go against that worldview, they're kind of ostracized and shut out. So even, they might have held one position 20 years ago and changed now just because they want to fit in. And if you question them and get them to interrogate their position, they'll let you know that they know the other side of the argument. They understand how absurd it is, but still, it's not even cognitive dissonance. They're just going to hold to their in-group's belief system. So, in-group bias or whatever. So we're in this situation where people just don't understand, or they do understand, but they don't want to face reality, basically. They don't want to have to deal with it. It's a kind of procrastination. So, let's just pretend this isn't a problem. I've never eaten at that place. So we're in this situation, and it's easy to understand, because if you're okay, more or less, especially, I have to say, older, weird white people who have stocks and bonds and, maybe property and so on, and businesses, they're doing so well. Why would they want to change the status quo? There's just no incentive to do that. So they're going to hang on to it, and they're going to avail themselves of whatever narratives are useful to maintain the belief in that system. And they're going to have good arguments, good reasons, good justifications. None of this is, is idiotic. The people are smart. It's just that they don't want to face that situation. They don't want it to change because there's, no incentive to want to change. And they don't want to be ostracized. You don't want to lose your career. You don't want to lose your place in the church or wherever. Look at them. They're just sheep. Hello, sheep. I've got a soft spot in my heart for sheep. Not with all kinds of wildlife, but, sheep and goats. I like them. So we're in that dilemma where we can't face the reality of certain things. So if you had like a reality-based economy, science-based, evidence-based, where the priorities were different, you could, and then you say, but that's just communism, that's socialism, well, whatever. Well, I don't know, man. More people have housing and healthcare. Most people, wherever they are on the spectrum of political ideology, want these basic things, and they basically want these basic things for people. There is an element where it's like, well, for me, yes, but I don't really care about for them because I have nothing to do with them. So, if they don't get it, why should I care? It's their problem. And, that's understandable. But, some people have a greater sense of social justice or whatever. And they're like, I want people all over the world to be, more or less okay. Access to education and so on. And other people are like, hell no, you compete. If you win the war, you win the war. If they get booted out, that's history, that's human nature, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I get that, but what's going to happen is we're going to crash up against these limitations, constraints, whether we like it or not, and it's gonna really be tough. And it's happening right now. It's just that we don't notice it because it hasn't gotten bad enough. As if all the Ukraine and Gaza and all these different things going on in Africa and Taiwan and China, as if that's not like scary enough. We have the oil thing that we have to deal with. If there was no problem with CO2 and methane and, greenhouse gases and particulates and so on and so forth, we'd all be laughing, until we ran out. And then we'd still have to do something if we wanted to maintain this. And then if you're the kind of liberal who says, I just think it's better for everyone to get richer and consume more, So I'm for like Africans becoming like Americans, everyone in Africa. I think that's silly because we have material constraints. And even with energy that's too cheap to meter, we still have physical constraints. It's physics. And even if you're going to mine asteroids and go to Mars, you still have constraints because we're earthlings. We evolved to live on this planet in a certain kind of temperate zone. So apparently optimal intellectual output is done between like 13C and 20C. When it gets too hot, it's harder to be productive and in an intellectual sense. And that's not like some like bell curve bullshit about IQ. It's just like, have you ever been anywhere where it was really hot and humid and your brain just wasn't working that good? You know, it's, you can find anecdotal intuitions based on your own experience quite easily, but apparently there's some numbers and data and science behind that. So we're going to have to deal with that, you know, wet bulb Earth in certain parts of the world, and we don't, it's so unpredictable. We really don't know what the freak is going to happen. This guy is working in his field and the horse in the background, so cute and curious, with his ears up. Amok could die, and then I'm always having fun with Paul Beckwith. He's explaining all these papers, climate science papers. He's a great guy, sweetheart. He tries to educate. We don't want to know. So, if AMOC stops, then you know, the ice comes back in the north, so you get the albedo from that. But a lot of other things shift. So when you talk about ecosystems and farming, food production, all these kinds of things, everything shifts. So you know, how are you going to deal with it? And how fast does it shift? Pretty damn fast, you know, I mean, all things considered. It's a fairly devastating thing. So can the world coordinate an answer to that problem when it happens? Or is it like every man for himself, buy your guns, hand-waving freakoutery, get your bunker, you know, coalesce around your technocratic CEO boss dude with your charter city and your fucking cryptocurrency or whatever. And if you live longer than the people down the road, then you're a winner. Meanwhile, you have to kill to survive. I just like living in my world where I don't have to kill anybody, don't have to fight, you know, I don't have to go out and prove my manhood by beating somebody up. I understand Jim Rutt's thing, you know, when we were kids and we roughhoused and got in some fights and stuff. It's just normal growing up. It's what you do if you're a boy and so on. I get that. But at some point you realize the diminishing returns on violence. You know, all you have to do is get your ass kicked really bad once and you'll figure it out, or suffer the guilt from really hurting somebody else and then realizing that's not so much fun. Born on the 4th of July, patriotic Vietnam warrior, second tour, kills his own guy and then massacres a village of old men and children. Kind of takes the wind out of the old patriotic, you know, heroism through violence thing. And so capitalism, American capitalism, you know, roughshod in Korea, Vietnam, all over the world, Indonesia, Philippines, war is a racket. And all the way up to today, losing every damn war and calling it a win, because financialized global capital, fossil capital, and other forms of capital, you know, you call everything capital. Tree capital, human capital, imagination capital, whatever. Give me a break. It's about profits for owners, basically, period, full stop. And as long as that's working, everything's going swimmingly. You know, we're all good, because certain class of people in the world, a class of people who were fortunate enough to have some extra resources to put into investments and so on, that rendered a return on that capital, the, you know, investment capital, or people who in the old days, control the means of production. They're doing fine, so the world's perfect, and nothing could go wrong. The nuclear war problem, ballistic missile treaties. Now everybody's getting hypersonic missiles and drone technology, and so Iran can spend $100 million sending hundreds of missiles of various forms of munitions into Israel, and then Israel can send up $1.6 billion worth of arrows to try to shoot down the other arrows. And eventually, if that continues, it's disastrous, Somebody runs out of ammo and that's game over. No more defense, Iron Dome. And who's going to replace all that stuff for how much money, and where are you going to get the financing? So the name of the game is in the financing. That's where you make your big bucks. General Electric, Phi Beta Kappa, or whatever the fuck Jack Welch was talking about back then. Yeah, we're not going to build all this shit anymore. We're going to have other people build it for us. We're going to control the brand, and we're going to financialize everything. And I'll return shitloads of money to my shareholders, and everybody will be happy in the whole wide world. How could it be otherwise? It's ideal. It's perfect. So it's just one scam after another, one Ponzi scheme after another. And we all are happy because we like our trucks, we like our basketball game. We like gambling a little bit. We like our recreational drugs. We're vain. We have enough status that we, pretty impressed with ourselves, more or less. I'm pretty impressed. We get enough validation, enough clicks, enough likes. Until it's like, oh, really? It's absolutely true? I mean, maybe we only have 400 billion barrels of oil. And how are we going to maintain this whole beautiful little system of ours? This wonderful, glorious system. Look both ways before crossing the train track. Keep your ears wide open. So it could all just end. It will at some point, but sooner than later. But honestly, if you're going to play that game, play well. And I think wealthy people are thinking about their bunkers and their bug out houses and their private security teams and their guns and ammo. And also just trying to control as many resources as possible so that they can be the last man standing. It's like that show Billions, you want to have your name on the goddamn building, and that's some other dickhead. Because you're the cool guy. You're the smart one. You're the good player. You're the competitive one. You're strong. You're smart. Dog eat dog world, baby. Yeah, so if you're going to play that, play it. That's why, Andrew Tate and people like that get so much attention. Because they're like, just being real, man. What you see is what you get. This is the way the world works. If you want to be a poor slouch with no girlfriends, then go to some other channel. You want to be an incel playing your video game. Yeah, so people are paying attention to all this kind of stuff because it seems like it's going to make you It's going to get you what you want. Status, attention, girlfriends, stuff. I didn't finance that jet ski. I paid cash. I paid cash for that jet ski. Because I can. Because I'm that good, punk. Okay, I'm gonna cheat. I'm that good, punk. So anyhow, there's a limit to it, but the stories we tell ourselves are very potent. The reasons, the rationalizations, people can talk about rationalists and all that. I'm against the rationalists, but everybody's a rationalist because we use reason in our thinking. And we have justifications for things, and we can bend them around pretty well. They're very logical and all that, but they might not really deliver what they're purporting to deliver. But of course, they might deliver exactly what they purport to deliver, which is a lot of power and money for certain people, and a lot of misery and horror for other people. Which is what we see in the world. And we don't seem to care that much as long as we're okay. And then of course, if people do care and feel kind of bad that something bad's happening in the Middle East they don't like, the status quo, the players, business as usual folks are going to treat them like criminals. If you try to say that the CIA and MI6 and all these different agencies, DARPA and NSA, whatever, are doing shit around the world to maintain power for corporatists and oligarchs and people in the game, then you're a dangerous individual, because of course you're dangerous to the status quo. Whether you're Richard Dawkins or Sam Harris or whatever, it's like, I'm a cultural Christian. Basically you're just saying, Indica, white empire, global north, status quo, financialized neoliberal capitalism is the bomb, the best, and I'm going to defend it to my dying breath, because that's where I got all my status and power and money. And go ahead, just try to fuck with me on that. Go ahead. And so even if you're a die-in-the-wool atheist who thinks religious people are idiots, you can be a cultural Christian because you were born in a Christian country with Christian values or whatever it is. And you don't really care about any of those values or ethics or moral precepts. What you care about is your privilege. Yeah, white privilege, whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be a color. It's just that mentality. The West is the best. End of history, Francis Fukuyama. We won. Everything's going to be like us. There's going to be a Burger King in every fucking city on the planet. Wherever you go. Fast fashion, Burger King, Netflix, Google, Facebook. And, why do you want to walk to the United States through the jungle when you can simply just, let America run the show? Argentina, don't cry for me. I'm not going to cry for you. Just let big business run the show. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be laughing. You'll all be so good, so very good. And for those poor people who think that they can do things differently, have some other ideas, well, sanction them, bomb them, bully them, treat them like garbage. And when they get mad at you because you're oppressing them or treating them like garbage, then you call them terrorists, Freedom fighters, commies, revolutionaries. Oh my God, the world is coming to an end. This is how we like it. And this ocean view is how I like it. So it's good to read books where people interrogate capitalism, communism. You don't have to get too wedded to your own ideological beliefs. Oh, there's a car down there. See that beach? That's where I'm going. There's a car there. I think that's a car, is it? Yeah. I'm going there. I've never been there. But you can see this nice view. That's Nazaré over there. No big waves today. All right. I'll go show you this view up here. And then I'm going down to that beach. Because I'm a capitalist. I can ride my bicycle. And you kind of see how they're thinking. And it's just fun for me anyway. Some people, it just bores the hell out of them. I get it. But it's fun. This day is so clear. I wish I had a zoom because I can see Peniche way, way down there. And this island out here is so clear. It all looks so close, like you could swim to it. Salir de Port Headland. Yeah, so, why should you care? I mean, if you're cool, you're on the internet, selling a program like make $20,000 at home in your spare time. I have a proven program system. Today, in the next hour and a half, you can buy my program for the low price of just $9.99. $999 right now. And guaranteed, within a month, you'll be making $20,000 a week. At home. And I have a proven system of how to manage your time in this program so that you can be maximally efficient. And all you have to do is move data from one place to another. That's it. So we have some program, right? Like if you're going to invest $10,000, what would you do? Let me show you how. It doesn't cost you much. Or, you're selling some program for how to pick up girls at the shopping mall. Hey, look at this little rabbit. Oh, cutie pie. I have lots of rabbits in the back where I live. I like them. And I have an owl. I like the owl too. I'm like Waterboy. I like everything. Here's some nice little modern homes. Wee little modern homes with a view. No thing like it. Well, see what we got here. What do we got here? And more horses. Horses everywhere. Those are pretty horses too, you can see over there. So these modern houses are going up like crazy year after year because Americans and other people are like, I'm gonna go live over there. It's cheaper. Well, it's not gonna be cheaper for a lot of people. The real estate price goes up. Locals get a little bit perturbed, but then again, the money comes in and it's spent in this economy. So there aren't like terribly huge complaints. Oh, that's pretty. Whew. Bom dia. Smells good. The flowers. Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff going up, so I'm of the belief, as I've said in other videos, that there's going to come a time, I don't know when, where it's not going to be easy for people to travel or to move to another country, relocate. Things are going to get tight. And if you're not a wealthy person, you're going to be in trouble, you know? So if you do want to live a little bit longer than the next guy, you're going to need a lot of money. So maybe it's better that you're just a predatory capitalist, or at least you're making good investments with the money that you earn from your business or your job or whatever. And you have capital on capital returns so that you can afford to move. Oh, okay, Praia da Gralha. That's cool. I like it. And I've never been here. It's so much fun because I've been around here a million times, but I've never been to this one place. And I love my area because of that. I always get more freaked out going downhill than I do going uphill. It's scarier. And it's uneven and it's gravelly, so I don't want to have a spill. But if I go too slow, I'm gonna fall. So to do it safely, you got to go faster. But I'm too timid to do that in my condition because I'm old. So I don't want to have an accident, break a wrist, a hip. So I'm a bit of a weakling in my, but what the heck, I'll just walk down here, keep it safe. And enjoy the view. And riding up is no problem, it's easy. Look at that. So nice. Yeah, if I were younger, I'd just go hauling down this thing, it'd be okay. When I watch those videos of guys mountain biking downhill, man, it's thrilling. These guys are intrepid maniacs. Not for me. My age is my excuse. Call it more or less good sense. I don't know. You'll notice when I'm riding around, there's not that much traffic. So I'm not contending with cars too much. And if a truck's coming or something like that, you can usually almost always hear it and prepare to get out of the way. Oh my God, this beach is incredible. Portugal is losing coastline. It's receding due to all the things going on. The sea level is rising, that's a fact. If the AMOC stops at some point in time, it's still going to take a while for the ice to come back and the sea level to go down. At any rate, we've done this uncontrolled experiment which provided us the fuel for the kind of capitalism that we've known in modern times. Let's just say from like the 17th century, but in particular since the mid-19th century, as you know, fossil capital. And we're not planning for it. We're not thinking about it. I mean, some people are, but they're a tiny minority of people. 0.0 something %. You know, people look at TV news or magazines or websites, and they get a little bit of information, and they don't really know what to do with it, because it's hard to see how everything fits together and interrelates. Political philosophy, economics, all these different things coming together. So we're still in this situation where it's like America hates Slavs. I'll read that article for you. You're still like, you need the Russians to be the enemy. Have to have it. I mean, you just can't do business without that. So this little van has a solar panel. They're getting some juice to charge up their stuff. Wow. It's nice. Wow. A doggy and bicycle. Whew, really is pretty. Man, this is a best kept secret for sure. That's a cute dog, almost like a border collie mix. So this is within cycling distance of my home. And it's very good for my health, having a view like this. Well, gotta come down here someday and hang out, have a picnic. As I say, growing up is not scary. And this does beat walking. It's a good little hit. Yeah, thank you. Electric motor. Yeah, so electrification. We're gonna have to spend a lot of billions of, oh, there's some cute goats. Can you see them? This house is nice. What a location. Man. It's ideal. So, Nate and all the people Nate talks to are always discussing how much oil and gas do we need to electrify, and then what kind of materials, fiber, carbon fiber, nanotube, high-tech materials, technology, I mean, for wind power, solar power, new battery tech. And then you're going to invest, have all the countries in the world sink a lot of money into it. Right now we don't really invest anything. So what this is for the people who fly the kites. You jump off of here and fly around. So this is their launching pad. Nobody's flying today. I don't know why. Maybe because it's Tuesday. Yeah, so how are you going to get together with China and Russia and all the other countries in the world and say, we're going to invest in this electrification project, like a Manhattan Project in World War II, and build out the infrastructure we need, and also the scale of life and production to match our resources, availability. Wow, this house is pretty. This is nice. Very beautifully done. I like this fence. That's really pretty house. 'Tis pretty. So it's a big investment. If you're gonna have the globe cap, financialized cap, do the work. No regulation, no government input, no democratization, no input from people, from different classes and different places. You're just gonna say, the Elon Musks of the world, who are just con men, are gonna do it all for us, and we're gonna love it. They're not. The money is made differently. It's not made by creating electrification infrastructure. That's not where the big bucks are. So they're not incentivized to do any of that. So they're not going to do any of that. Just deal with it. Your entrepreneurial heroes are not going to save the day. They're going to be in New Zealand with their private security team and their guns and ammo, or somewhere in Wyoming, saying nothing could be done. It's human nature. But I'm going to die after my other billionaire rival dies, which makes me the winner. And again, if you're young, if you're 20 something, good luck amassing the capital needed to be the last man standing, because you're going to be living in a different world. So you're going to have to be highly creative to figure out where you're going to fit in. You can't just count on that. Well, I'm going to go work on Wall Street for a while, and then I'm going to do this and that, and then I'm going to be blah blah and a consultant and give speeches and whatever the heck that career path looks like for the people who are lucky enough to win the game, more or less. It's not going to be like that. Things are shifting too quick. And yeah, there is war profiteering. There always has been. There's a vast literature about it. And there still is. And of course, that's fine if you're a shareholder in Cincinnati, but not so nice if you're a Russian fleeing Russia because you don't want to fight, or a Ukrainian fleeing Ukraine because you don't want to fight. It's also interesting that the narratives coming from different people who are looking at different things are so different. So the mainstream narrative is Russia doesn't want to fight. They're all brainwashed and bullied into fighting because of Putin. Putler, the big comic book supervillain, who's the reason for all the shit in the world, all the election hoo-ha. And then other people like Scott Ritter, who have a different point of view. And, I've been to Russia and the Soviet Union. I don't know. I don't have a big problem with Russians or Ukrainians. I have a problem with the way the game's played that puts people in harm's way just to play this stupid game. That's why we should interrogate capitalism and not just take it for granted that it's the end of history, best of all possible worlds, and so on and so forth. But getting back to, the reason you're watching this video, for the scenery, and also because at the end of this video I'm going to introduce you to a program that is the end of days survival kit for becoming wealthy enough to own your own property anywhere in the world. And today, if you click on the link below, you get it for $1. Whew, that was so nice. That was very, very, very nice. I enjoyed that. Here's a little spot I can talk to the animals. Tick tock.